We begin tonight in York, where dozens of people rallied to legalize marijuana this afternoon. This comes, of course, just months after Washington State and Colorado passed laws that will legalize the drug with certain restrictions.
Welcome to the York Hemp Freedom Rally. In case you don't know why we're here because we're going to stop the war. Yeah! We have Don Knotts. Don Knotts is a former Army veteran. He's a cannabis activist. He's very involved. Last week or 2 weeks ago, he and I and a small group, we lobbied all the individual members of the Law and Justice Committee up in Harrisburg. We didn't look like today. We actually wore suits and ties and all that stuff. So I'm going to give it over to you. Everybody give a warm welcome to Don Knotts.
How y'all doing today? All right. Like Les said, my name's Don Knotts, Army vet. You know, I've been to jail for growing marijuana. Even though I signed my name on the line, I put my life on the line for this country. All right, I come back from my training, got injured, whatever. All right, get set up, do my time. All right, do my time just like a man. All right, and this is all for growing a plant, the most prescribed medicine, you know, before 1937. And it's just crazy that the government can do something like that to you. You know, just some facts right here. In 2007, nearly 900,000 people were arrested for a marijuana-related offense. All right, that's crazy. All right, and what did that do to everybody? That ruined their life. I'll tell you right now, I've tried going to school, all right, to further my education. Army background doesn't matter, all right? There's laws set in place that if you get charged with a drug offense, you are not receiving any money from the government. You can molest a child, you can rape a woman, man, whatever, and they'll give you money, all right? But me, not happening, all right? You gotta fight, you gotta struggle, all right? It's a pain, for real. I've worked my whole life, worked hard, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them, you know? They can lie, they can cheat, they can steal from everybody, and it's not a crime, right? Just like this NSA crap, all right? We got a guy that straight snitched on the government, all right? If he would have snitched on a drug dealer, they'd be patting him on the back. But what's he doing? Running for his life, all right? And that needs to be heard right there, you know? The government is criminals, all right?
I drove 4 hours to get here. And I've had diverticulosis for, I'd say, 10 years, and I was put on inflammatory drugs for a few years, and nothing worked but marijuana to ease the pain and the inflammation, and I'm just glad to be able to witness that this has really happened to me. And the colonitis too. Your colon gets real tight, and you basically can't go to the bathroom, and you do suffer, and you will be hospitalized, and it's painful, and that also has been relieved. So I am a living and breathing witness that medical marijuana works. I appreciate it.
There's a really great organization that's been working really hard and making really positive and effective change in Pennsylvania. That group is called LEAP. If you haven't heard of LEAP, you should look into them. It stands for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which is very important. It's very important that we have people in the law enforcement community supporting us. And, you know, a lot of us, we would support law enforcement if they didn't want to throw us in jail. I mean, because even people who smoke pot, we don't want to get robbed. We don't want to get, you know, our homes broken into. We want a safe society too, so we would support them. But just, you know, a lot of us, you know, so it's really important. But the group is called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and we have a representative from that group today. His name is William Cooke. He's a former Baltimore City prosecutor, and now he's a defense attorney, and he's on our side. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for William Cooke.
It's great to be out here today. I was up in Lancaster, if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm sure I'm not, last month or earlier this month, and it's a good crowd up there, it's a good crowd here. I know York somewhat well because I'm familiar with the bike trail. I'm from Baltimore originally, and I used to do the, I guess it's called the NCR Trail in Maryland. It becomes a heritage trail up here. And I've done it several times, and I just absolutely love York, love Pennsylvania. I'm just happy to be back here. You know, I'm not psychic, but I could have guessed a few minutes ago before Les did that poll that there are people in this audience who might occasionally use cannabis. Am I correct about that? So the question becomes, when you have friends and you have family members and people you work with, and they don't use cannabis, they don't use marijuana, and they wonder, why should I care? Or even if they kind of agree with you in theory that it should be legal, they don't feel that strongly about it. How do you motivate those people, or how do you convince those people without scaring them? And yeah, tell the truth, exactly. And there are a lot of good arguments against the drug war, particularly against marijuana. And we could talk for days about the collateral consequences of the war on drugs, specifically the war on marijuana. Let's just stick to that today. But, you know, one of the first things you got to consider is that any war is going to require an army. And that army is first going to consist of police officers, it's going to be prosecutors, it's going to be judges, it's going to be probation agents, it's going to be prison guards, it's going to be counselors, it's going to be all these people. And you know what about all these people? Well, they're not doing the work out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because they want to get paid. Profit. Exactly, profit. And they just don't want to get paid. After about 20 years of service, they want to have a pension. And they want half their pay for the rest of their lives, and they want great health insurance, all these things, and they're going to keep living longer and longer. And you look at that and you say, well, gee, that's an awful lot of money. And you look at a city like Detroit, for example, that has to go into bankruptcy because they can't keep up with paying the cost of all their retired police and all their other city employees. So you look at that and you say, well, Detroit, you have to make a choice. Are you going to offer essential services to your citizens, or are you going to keep paying these pensions? So one of the benefits about ending the war on marijuana is that we can actually lay off a lot of these people who are making their livings out of putting you in jail. Good. And you know, all that money we save, it will go back into the private economy. It will go back to people spending their money on things they want to spend their money on. And those people who lost their jobs, they'll get jobs elsewhere, doing things that make people happy instead of trying to ruin people's lives. So, you know, it infringes your freedom even if you don't smoke marijuana, because it takes money out of your paycheck. And that's money you might have spent giving to your church. It's money you might have spent, you know, buying beer. It's money you might have spent going to Disney World. Money you might have spent on anything. And so when you have your freedom deprived, when the government takes your money out of your paycheck to pay for laws that are absolutely insane. You know, and another thing is the war on marijuana, as well as the broader war on drugs, if I can speak properly here today. It's been hot out here in this suit, as you might imagine, so hopefully I don't go into heat exhaustion. But, you know, the war on marijuana really hasn't achieved any results. You know, we can look at the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, the rate of marijuana use is actually lower than it is here, despite the fact that in the Netherlands you can buy cannabis quite easily. We can look at the broader war on drugs and see that drug use really has kind of been consistent for the past 100 or so years, not really changing a whole lot. The rate of drug abuse has been about the same, despite prohibition. We can look at Portugal that decriminalized all drugs, and the rate of use actually went down. So the war on marijuana, it's not stopping marijuana use. It's costing a lot of money, and it has a lot of harmful consequences. We would be better served if they took our money, and instead of spending it on the drug war and marijuana prohibition, just threw it down a hole. We would probably get a better bang for our buck, because we're really just shooting ourselves in the foot over and over again with this drug war. The second thing I want to talk about is the kids, because when I testified in favor of a bill in Maryland, where I'm from, to decriminalize a small amount of marijuana, the questions I kept getting from the delegates, were all involved they involved either police and how will this affect the police and their right to search you, but their other questions were, well, this will set a terrible example for the children. We have to keep up the moral marijuana for the children. And from my experience, and from what I know, and what you know, I'm sure you're just looking at yourselves thinking, whose children are they protecting? Are they protecting the children in Mexico who have been killed in the drug war? About, 50,000 people killed, a lot of them children? What about those kids? What about the kids I saw when I was a prosecutor and now as a defense attorney who live in poor neighborhoods and they get caught up, selling marijuana, selling other drugs because the gang leaders basically press them into these situations to sell drugs because they know the kids aren't going to go to jail. Nothing bad's going to happen to the kids. So the kids are ones out on the street selling the marijuana, and they get arrested and they get into the juvenile system. Their lives get turned upside down, or they get shot. And I've seen a lot of kids that over the years that were when I was a prosecutor, we occasionally just have to come in and dismiss a case because a kid had been shot in the back of the head because he was a drug dealer and got caught up on the wrong side of the fight. So they're not protecting those children, the kids in the poor neighborhoods, the African American children. So again, whose children are they protecting? As I think lady over here was saying, drug dealers don't card. The kids will tell you it's easier for them to get marijuana than it is for them to get alcohol or tobacco.
Get weed before I get a diploma.
Yeah, exactly. Get weed before you get a diploma. I mean, if you're actually really interested in protecting kids and keeping them away from marijuana, legalizing it, getting it out of the hands of the dealers, and letting adults make their own decisions. After all, we're supposed to be a free country, and you don't have to like everything, but you have to respect the fact that adults, have a right to make their own damn decisions about what they want to do with their lives and their bodies, and how they want to spend their free time. So, it's about protecting the kids. Legalizing and regulating cannabis is actually going to protect the kids. It's going to shut down the Mexican gangs. It's going to shut down, or at least take away a lot of the money from the drug dealers, and it's going to get this into a regulated market. It's going to protect kids. The final point I want to hit on is law enforcement. Now, my organization is called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I'm sure before I was even introduced, when Les was talking about my organization, you probably realized that the idiot out here in the suit is probably the one with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. You probably could have picked me out in this crowd, right?
I could have.
Exactly. So, what are we about? What is law enforcement supposed to be about? Because what I saw in Baltimore were, a lot of people in the city, it's probably not that much different than New York or a lot of other cities. The people tended to see the police as almost a foreign occupying army, and not
Yeah,
exactly, it's foreign occupying army, and not part of the community. And if you look back on the history of the police, and they were formed by Robert Peel in England, and there was a big controversy about, should we even have police, because it's kind of like a standing army. And Robert Peel, if you read his writings, he talked about the police need to be the people, and the people need to be the police. We all need to be on the same side. We're not on the same side if we have to worry about the police arresting us for cannabis use.
Right on.
We don't want the police. We don't want the police to be seen as occupying army out there arresting people just for the sake of it. We want them out there solving real crimes, burglaries, robberies, rapes, child abuse. I mean, this should not be a divide. And I think sometimes those of us who speak out against prohibition, police sometimes they think we're being overly critical of them, or they think that, and sometimes we are critical of the police or the way they go about it. But I know a lot of police officers are good guys, and they work really hard. Good guys, good women as well. And we need to be careful that we're not out there just condemning the police just for being the police. They're oftentimes put in an impossible situation because they're told you got to enforce the law, and they want to get their paycheck, and they want to do what they're supposed to do. We got to work on changing the law, and that's really what it comes down to. Not just bashing the police, but changing the law, and hopefully creating a relationship, or recreating a relationship between law enforcement and the people that's not at odds, where we can see ourselves on the same side.
Everyone, I'm here to introduce the man of the hour. Before I do that, just a couple words about myself. My name's Dave Moser. I am one of those libertarians that's trying to make a difference. I'm running for mayor of York City as we speak. Unfortunately, it's going to take a couple more than 15 votes. I'm going to need everybody's help this year. I'm going to need everybody to spread the word. I don't have the money. I don't have the backing. This is what we do, and it's going to matter completely up to you. Nobody's buying my votes. You need to get out there and get them for me. That being said, it's time to introduce a gentleman. I've known him for a little bit now. He's a lot of things. He's a historian, he's an author, he's the organizer of this event, and I guarantee you he's going to have something to say today you've probably never heard before. Let me introduce you now to Mr. Les Stark.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Dave Moser for mayor of York. Can't go wrong with Dave. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, people of York, we stand on a threshold of historic change. We are in the pre-stages of real, true, profound, and revolutionary change. This change will bring a restoration and a renewal of the greatness of our past, merged with all the new possibilities of the present and the future. Something profound is indeed happening. There's a real war of ideas being waged in Pennsylvania. It's refreshing, but it's a tough fight. Many of us are on the front lines in the battles for change. I am proud to be here today around so many courageous patriots and freedom fighters. Thanks for coming. There's a lot happening right now, right before our eyes. We are the witnesses and the participants in the great tidal movement of history that cannot be stopped. Trying to stop this tremendously powerful idea will be as futile as trying to beat back the waves of a tsunami with batons and tasers. Because an idea whose time has come cannot be defeated by any army or any government. Our movement cannot lose because it springs from internal universal longings for freedom. Some say that freedom is dead, but it's not dead. Freedom lives in the hearts of each and every one of us. We are free, beautiful, and independent beings. And we are free because the God of the universe made us free. We are free because the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights says that we are free. And we are free because we say that we are free. Only natural law and the rights of man exist. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These things are guaranteed to us in our Constitution and our sacred secular documents, our traditions, and the fabric of our cultural identity. It's one thing that all Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Jew, or any other race, creed, color, tint, or hue can all agree on. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From our perspective, the Constitution settles the matter. There simply is no authority in the Constitution to stop people from being free. In 1681, when William Penn founded Pennsylvania, he specifically intended for the Commonwealth to grow hemp. In 1683, one of the first laws passed by the Pennsylvania General Assembly was an act for encouraging of raising hemp. In 1685, William Penn noted great quantities of hemp already cultivated in his province and declared that hemp would be among the staples of trade here. By the 1690s, the hemp industry was already well established here with rope factories manufacturing rope, hemp hecklers and weavers and farmers in every early settlement growing the crop. Hemp production proceeded with vigor. And in 1729, when the county of Lancaster was formed, containing the original Hempfield Township, which was named for, quote, the vast quantities of hemp that was raised there. A few years later, hemp production proceeded in York County and was established here with the very first settlers. Now, let's talk about hemp here a little bit. What did Daniel Stauffer, Jacob Statler, Catherine Busser, Jacob Libhart, Matthias Brown, Andrew Hinkle, Henry Dietz, and John Dietz all have in common? All of them are recorded as owning hemp mills for manufacturing hemp fiber in Pelham Township over here in New York. It would figure Pelham Township sits on the eastern border of York County, across Susquehanna River in Lancaster County, and a direct line from Pelham is the famous Hempfield Township, named for, quote, the vast quantities of hemp that was raised there. Lancaster County gets a lot of attention when we think of the historical hemp industry, and rightfully so. Between the years of 1720 and 1870, there were over 100 water-powered mills for processing hemp fiber in Lancaster County alone, and there were dozens more hemp mills in all the surrounding counties. Being a good neighbor to Lancaster County, of course, York County was no slouch when it came to producing hemp either. Records indicate that it was just as important crop here, too, as it was on the other side of the river. My friend Sean House has a neat old bottle of cannabis extract medicine made in Helm Township from a man named Cooke, K-O-P-P. It was called Cop Syrup, and it was supposed to be good for colds. Records, evidence, and anecdotal stories indicate that hemp was grown in York County by virtually all of the early settlers, and continued at least some degree all the way into the 1940s. All of the farmers grew it, and there were many employed in working it. For example, John Ryder, Adam Strong, Barnabas McLaughlin, and Roddy Janes were listed as hemp hecklers in Helm Township. Michael McFadyen, John McCosher, John Corker were hemp hecklers in York Township. Jacob Ferry was a rope maker in York Township, while William Himes and George Humes made ropes in Hanover. John Hoke, Henry Jerian, Peter Lick, Thomas Platts, Jacob Schultz, Peter Wilt, and George Wolfe all were York City rope makers. Nicholas Peters made ropes in Helm. John Ryder was over in Windsor Township, while James Rodney was making ropes in Wrightsville. The hemp industry was booming for many years. Hemp mills existed in all parts of York County. Michael Hengst, Jacob Spittler, John Meyer, John Rott, and John Jones had hemp mills in York Township. Ludwig Zimmerman and Joseph Bradley owned hemp mills in Monoghan Township. Philip Oldland had one in Dover Township. Simon Pesher ran a hemp mill in Reading Township, and Andrew Kaufman owned one in Windsor Township. George Stabley ran his in Shrewsbury Township. Isaiah White in Hamilton Bond and the hemp mill of Hugh Moniferous in Strabon Township. Andrew Ketterman and William Shepard owned hemp mills in Newberry Township. Dietrich Brubaker, Peter Sprinkle owned hemp mills in Cadorus Township, while Dietrich Brubaker and Jacob Hartzell also ran hemp mills in Franklin Township. John Stauffer, Peter Snyder owned hemp mills in Paradise Township. Manallen Township, now Adams County, had hemp mills owned by Peter Eicher, Francis Nose, and Jacob Rex. York County's Manheim Township had hemp mills owned by Daniel Dubbs, John Hershey, George Kitzmiller. Philip Hoffman, John Roth, Peter Sprinkle, Henry Bear, Valentine Schultz, and John Optengroff all owned hemp mills in York County's Manchester Township. A map of York County in 1875 indicates hemp mills still in operation there, and we know that across the river in Lancaster County, hemp was still being grown there also. There's a great picture of hemp being grown near Hanover in 1908. The picture on the $10 bill of 1914 shows a hemp farming scene said to be near Manchester in York County, not far from the Lily Farm, where the hemp was grown in the 1908 picture. The early citizens of York used that hemp not only for rope, but also for grain bags, Conestoga wagon covers, rugs, curtains, tablecloths, handkerchiefs, napkins, sheets, pillowcases, bedding, towels, pants, shirts, dresses, and just about any kind of fabric. It was often blended with wool, flax, cotton, or silk to achieve a variety of textures. When the clothing was worn out, it was recycled and made into paper. The Cadorus paper mills was one in particular that used hemp fiber to make various paper products. There were almost as many oil mills to express oil from the many tons of excess hemp seed, which was a byproduct of the enormous hemp industry grown for fiber here. That hemp seed oil was used in paints, varnishes, lacquers, lubricants, printer's ink, and lamp oil, and the remaining seed cake was fed to the livestock. Whole seed was also raised and sold for bird seed, and there was a big industry to sell seeds to other farmers who wanted to grow hemp. Many of the same people who owned the hemp mills also owned the oil mills to go with it. So what happened? On May 22nd, 1933, Pennsylvania banned cannabis and hemp, calling it, quote, marijuana. It was banned here a full 4 years before the federal prohibition was enacted on August 2nd, 1937. So we just had the anniversary 2 months ago. The 80-year anniversary of marijuana prohibition in Pennsylvania. 80 years of war. over in Lancaster County, the first person that we know of to be and can prove to be arrested under the new state marijuana laws was an 81-year-old man named Enos Schaefer. Enos was growing a long strip of hemp alongside his garden. He admitted to growing the crop, but he said he had no idea whatsoever that it was legal. As far as Enos was concerned, he was growing hemp, and he was growing it for seeds for his chickens to eat, which was a legitimate use for hemp and quite common. Can you imagine arresting an 81-year-old Lancaster County hemp farmer and charging him with growing marijuana? He was arrested on July 5th, 1938. But that one old hemp farmer, Enos Schaefer, became the first victim to these terrible, insane, and immoral laws. Since then, the police have waged a campaign of terror against the citizens of Pennsylvania, arresting 25,000 people, arresting 250,000 Pennsylvanians in the last decade, and promising to arrest 250,000 more over the next decade at a cost of over $3.5 billion. They have not seen a reduction in the numbers of Pennsylvanians using cannabis one bit. And in fact, despite all of their brutal tactics, money spent, and 80 years of war, they have only seen continued increases in the numbers of people using this plant. The only thing they have been effective at is stopping sick people from using it as a medicine and stopping farmers from growing hemp as an industrial plant. This madness must stop. One thing my mind dwells on sometimes are the numbers. We know that in the state of Pennsylvania, there are more than 1 million people who smoke cannabis every year. We currently arrest 25,000 people a year for cannabis offense at a cost of $350 million. Now come on. Any fool can plainly see that you can never stop 1 million people by arresting 25,000. The people maintaining this status quo are basically defending this asinine and backwards policy that is so obviously doomed to failure on paper and in real life. I was a tank crewman in the Marines. While true, I was not a general or any other extraordinary tactician or master of strategy, I did, however, rise to the high and lofty ranks of Lance Corporal. And I can tell you that what I see is just not going to work and cannot work. So what would have to be done? How about if they double their efforts, say arrest 50,000 Pennsylvanians at a cost of $700 million a year? They might be able to pull that off for a while, but still the same problem. You've got over 1 million people still smoking cannabis in the state, even after you arrest 50,000 people. So that won't do either. Perhaps a bold proposal then. How about arrest 100,000 Pennsylvanians at a cost of $1.5 billion a year? A 10-year campaign that will arrest 1 million Pennsylvanians at just a cost of $10.5 billion. That might send a strong message, and then you would probably get that number down from 1 million down to half that. Of course, if you arrest that many people, 1.5 billion probably won't cover it, because then you have to build many new and massive prisons. Maybe to show how really serious they are, they should stiffen penalties of a minor possession to mandatory jail time. So why aren't they proposing that? The fact is, there is no way that even here in Pennsylvania that people would ever let that happen. No way. If they think people are taking to the streets now, wait till they see what would happen if they tried that. We're already sick of it. Pennsylvania prison populations have increased 500% since 1980. A few months ago, the pundits were saying that PA is in no mood to relax marijuana laws. Well, guess what? They're in no mood to shell out hundreds of more millions of dollars a year on an escalation or even maintenance of such a drastically failed and destructive policy that is not only wrong, cruel, and immoral, but blatantly stupid as well. The status quo simply cannot be maintained. And change is so obviously coming that it can be seen by all, even those who oppose it. If we do nothing and only maintain the status quo, over the next 10 years, more than 250,000 Pennsylvanians will have their lives ruined or severely disrupted by arrests, while more than 1 million people a year continue to keep an underground, chaotic, unregulated market controlled in many cases by street thugs, criminal gangs, and large drug cartels going. How could that possibly be better than a legal regulated market with common sense government regulations controlled by Pennsylvania businessmen? How? Meanwhile, they're kicking in doors, cracking heads, and throwing people in prison and wrecking the lives of over 250,000 Pennsylvanians over that same decade. The people of Colorado and Washington and probably Oregon and California and several other states will be living free, building their economies, funding their schools and other worthwhile essentials, raking in over $1 billion in tax revenue in each respective state. Do the citizens of Pennsylvania really support this injustice? My opinion is that when the facts are laid out before them, they will support change. All of this wasted effort has had such tragic results. In addition to the ruined lives, torn apart families, billions down the drain in enforcement, billions lost on tax revenue that could be collected, etc. We are preventing sick people who could legitimately benefit from cannabis. And it's just not fair, especially when an astonishing 82% of Pennsylvanians support medical cannabis being legal in the state, just as it was when many companies and enterprising individuals grew cannabis in PA, made various cannabis extracts like Mr. Cooke did over in Hellam. But let's get back to hemp. The same madness that makes the social use of cannabis a crime has led to the ban on agricultural hemp. Imagine, this was a crop grown by virtually all of our early ancestors in PA, in every settlement, in all corners of the state. How dumb is it to ban a plant that is non-toxic, non-lethal, renewable resource for paper, plastics, fiberboard, hempcrete, biofuels, and thousands of other products? Our farmers want to grow hemp. Resolutions have been passed in favor of hemp by the Lancaster Farm Bureau, the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, the Pennsylvania State Grange, and the Pennsylvania Farmers Union. But the lawmakers are deaf and blind to what is going on. To me, as a former Marine who took a vow to uphold and defend the Constitution settles the matter. Cannabis and hemp prohibition is illegal and a constitutional breach, even against our Pennsylvania state constitution. What do the people of Pennsylvania think? What do the polls tell us? Where does Pennsylvania really stand on this issue? The national polls show that for the first time, the majority of Americans support re-legalization of cannabis. People of Pennsylvania are no different. At least 82% of Pennsylvanians support medical cannabis, as revealed by a poll done a few months ago by Terry Madonna of F&M. A recent poll conducted by Muhlenberg College and commissioned by Allentown Morning Call revealed that while 40% of Pennsylvanians would oppose cannabis legalization, an astonishing 57% would not oppose full legalization of cannabis in the Keystone State. But I want to tell you something. Change is coming to Pennsylvania. For the first time in our lifetimes, legislation has been introduced in PA to fully legalize cannabis. It was introduced by State Senator Dalen Leach, and it's called Senate Bill 528. It will allow us to grow up to 6 plants and allows for the non-monetary transfer of up to an ounce of cannabis between friends and bars employers from punishing workers for off-the-job cannabis use. In addition, John Hanger is running for governor and has announced his 3-step program to reach full legalization of cannabis in Pennsylvania by 2017. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about that. Everything I said, what we have to realize is now we have this opportunity before us where, for years we talked about legalization in vague, hypothetical, and theoretical terms. It was always wishful thinking. We need to legalize it. We know it, blah, blah, blah. It was all just talk that swirled around in the circles and it never went anywhere. Now, for the first time in our lifetime, we actually have something to work with. We have actual concrete proposals. Senate Bill 528 is not perfect. It will sell marijuana in the state stores. Now, me personally, I would prefer a free market solution. I want cannabis cafes. I want all this stuff. But the reason I support Senate Bill 528 is there is no bill for that. We have to work with what we got. So let's get Senate Bill 528 passed first. That would be a huge step, because the main thing is, a lot of people say, well, we should regulate it this way, we tax it. But, there's a million different ways to approach it. But the number one most important thing is we must end this war. We must stop ruining people's lives, because that's what it all comes down to. We do this because we care about each other. Love is what it's all about. peace and love from the 60s, and it's still true today. Love. I mean, everybody, not everybody here smokes pot. I don't think Dave does. I'm pretty sure he does. You know, so I know Manuel. Yeah. Does anybody, raise your hand if you do not smoke pot. See, there's some here. Yeah. So, you know, but all of you guys, you know people who do. Dave knows me, so. You know, so if you know people with pot, who are these people? Though? Are your brothers and your sisters and your cousins and your uncles maybe, and your friends that you went to school with. What, do we want to see them in jail? No. And we can't put everybody in jail anyway. You got over 1.5 million people smoking it, so what are you going to do? How tough can you be? I mean, what the hell? You might as well just legalize it. I went down to see Pink Floyd back in 1994 down in Philly, and there was about 80,000 people there. Out of 80,000 people, there was about 50,000 people smoking pot. And now, obviously, where did they get their pot? They got it from the black market, they got it from the streets, from the gangs and all that stuff. Why not just sell it? Why not just sell it right there in the stadium? I mean, think about how much money they can make. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I go to a concert, I pay $5 for a joint, or it'd probably be $10, in Philly and stuff like that. Well, what the hell? You're going to a concert. It's a day off anyway. $10 for a joint, and you go. Then they made money, and they're happy, and then probably a couple dollars out of that 10 was probably taxes, and that goes to the state or the city or however they work it out. But there's just a better, more humane and realistic approach. This isn't 1937 when the government banned it. Do you know that I just read a really interesting story last week? And do you know what they invented in 1937? They invented the lobotomy. Do you know what a lobotomy is? I thought I knew. I thought they cut a piece of your brain out or something like that. But anyway, I was wrong. A lobotomy is they take a spike and they stick it in your eye and they pound that spike into your brain and separate your frontal lobes. That's what a lobotomy is. And you know why they did lobotomies? They did it to cure gay people. They did it to cure people who they thought were crazy, people with attention deficit disorder. And they used to say that smoking marijuana made you crazy. So that means if you smoke pot, you were crazy, so they might jab a spike in your brain. And that's, when I think about the madness, you think about the 1930s, think how brutal it was. Think about if you were in jail or if you were at a mental institution back in the 1930s. I mean, it was just so inhumane. This is not 1937 anymore, it's 2013. We've been to the moon, we've advanced our scientific understanding and so forth. So we shouldn't be stuck with the madness of our past. So what we have to do, I want everybody to support Senator Dalen Leach, Bill 528. Go to my Facebook page, Pennsylvania Hempland Security. I'll tell you all the things that you can do and you can help make change. Welcome, Erica Lynn.
Hi, it's great to see you all out here. Like I said, my name's Erica, and I'm just your average middle-class single mom struggling to make ends meet. There'll be others that can speak more eloquently than I can on all the many reasons it's time to end demonizing people over a plant that has so many medicinal, industrial, agriculture, and environmental benefits. So what I would just like to talk about for a few minutes as a woman and a mom is plain and simple common sense. I first tried marijuana in my mid-teens, and like all kids shuffled through the brainwashing machine that is our education system, I was taught all the evils of marijuana use. It makes you forgetful and lazy, it kills your brain cells, it's addicting, and of course, it's the hard gateway to ever more increasing drug use. Yet despite my initial fear of it, I tried it, and I could not understand what all the fuss was about. It just made no sense. Then years later, when I found myself with two beautiful girls of my own, I was in a predicament. Never mind that I was a hard-working, intelligent woman, working as an administrative assistant and a freelance computer programmer. Never mind that I was a devoted mother, a taxpayer, and a model citizen that never had a single run-in with the law. If anyone knew that I smoked, would the law and the schools try to take my children away? Would I lose my job? Would the kids' parents of my kids' friends refuse to let them play with my kids? Fear started to set in, and I was starting to feel like the criminal that law and society wanted me to be. And so I kept my secret to myself. As time went on, I watched throughout my adult life how easily and effectively alcohol destroyed lives and families, all while being perfectly legal. I saw friends lose their jobs over failed drug tests that had nothing to do with them being under the influence while on the job. I saw people turn into little more than zombies being prescribed so-called safe prescription painkillers and antidepressants. And countless times, alcohol turned a simple disagreement into outright violence. And I always secretly thought to myself that the world would be a much better and peaceful place if everyone would just chill out and burn one. Then one day I find my oldest daughter is at the age where it's time to have the talk, which included drug and alcohol use. What was I going to do? Was I going to reinforce the lies being shoved down her throat by the system? Was I going to be a hypocrite and say one thing while doing another? My own sense of reason kicked in and I decided to tell the truth. My daughter had also witnessed firsthand the effects of alcohol abuse, but she still seemed surprised when I said, look, here's how it is. If you're underage and I catch you drinking or you come home drunk, you will be grounded for the rest of your life. If I catch you smoking pot, you will also be grounded, but probably for like 2 weeks. So after her initial shock, it really opened up the conversation. As a mother of a beautiful daughter, am I going to want her going to parties and hanging out with overly aggressive drunk guys? Or am I going to prefer her sitting around getting high and playing Dungeons and Dragons? It's kind of a no-brainer. No one gets angry or violent when they're high. I've never ever heard of stoner goggles or engaging in overly promiscuous or risky behavior when high. In fact, if you're going to be motivated to do anything stoned, it better well and truly be worth the effort. So then we talked about the biggest misconception of all. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. You know what the gateway is? Breaking the law. Of course, once you break the law and are labeled a criminal for smoking a joint, and you find out firsthand what the effects are, it's going to, number one, make you bolder in breaking other laws, and number two, give you the false sense that if the law had it so wrong about marijuana, they probably got it wrong about the other drugs too. And this is the biggest danger of all. Crack, heroin, and meth are dangerous. And the fact that we're teaching our children that they're even in the same league as a natural medicinal plant is a blatant lie at best, and it is what encourages experimentation with other more dangerous drugs at worst. In short, it's nothing less than insanity. So in my heart, I know that by being open and honest with my children, I have done my job as a parent. I've armed them with the truth so they can make well-informed, rational decisions about their own life. And now I've reached the stage in my own life where I'm tired of living in fear and secrecy. I'm tired of being labeled a criminal simply because I would prefer to smoke a joint at the end of the day rather than have a glass of wine. And the more I break away from that fear, the more I find exactly how many like-minded people there are. But still too many are afraid to speak up. They're afraid of losing their jobs, afraid of losing respect from their peers, and I no longer care about that. I've decided that if I'm not going to actively try to be part of the solution, I'm nothing more than part of the problem. So I talked to the owners of the company where I work and convinced them to change our drug policy to treat marijuana as no different than alcohol use. It's a small company and a small step, but it is a step. As an individual, I'm powerless to change laws and affect real change, but together we can, and together we will. That's why I've been thrilled to be able to work with Les and all the great work that he does in bringing about awareness and bringing people together, as well as every other freedom fighter that's fought so hard and bravely to end this insanity. But this movement does need more than just our moral support. Unfortunately, it takes money to organize events and to engage in political lobbying. But if everybody who supports this movement gave just a little bit, it would go a very long way in making sure we keep the ball rolling, keep moving forward collectively to bring about a brighter future for everyone.
So I want you to everybody give it up for Manuel Gomez. Right.
Thank you so much, Les. Are you folks awake? Are you awake? You want to live free? Let me hear you give a round of applause. Yeah! Now, thanks so many of you for coming out, bringing your good spirit to York, pushing back the old backwards ways of society. We don't want to go back to the 1930s. We want to move forward with a renewed way of thinking, a new passion for freedom, a new passion for sovereign bodies and sovereign people, that the government doesn't tell what they have the right to ingest or put into their bodies. Let me tell you something. I don't particularly fancy being intoxicated, so I don't consume marijuana, and I'm lucky and blessed to not have to take advantage of its medicinal attributes. But let me tell you something. For you out there, my brothers and sisters, who need marijuana for spiritual, cultural, medicinal, recreational purposes, I think you should have the right to ingest marijuana. And to hell with the government that thinks it can ever tell you that you shouldn't indulge. Let me tell you the reality of where you're standing now. I'll give you a little bit of a history of York City, as I know it. There was a study done by the Justice Policy Institute which showed, and I would like the brother to come up here. Les, if you would as well. Stay right here. This study showed that if you were a person of color and you faced the arrest for a similar drug charge as a white person here in the county of York, this man would be 24 times more likely to receive a state prison sentence compared to his white counterpart. How do you explain away that disparity? How do you justify that targeting and that disparity? It is unjustifiable. Unjustifiable. If you want to see a freer society where we don't have to be dumbfounded by these statistics, and yes, there are multiple reasons. It's not that every cop that approaches you is a racist. The system is set up where if you don't have legal representation and the resources to escape the traps, you're more likely to receive a conviction. What am I saying? As people of color, a lot of times we live in disenfranchised areas where we're impoverished. So we don't have access to the same corporate lawyers and high money representatives that some of our white counterparts do. So how do we counteract these injustices? You change the law. You change the law. That's why I'm actually confident that we can stand here and have a bill like SB 528 and know that it will actually bring about real revolutionary change. We have to take a stand. I'm going to make a call to action. It is unlikely, because of my public advocacy, that I would ever be called to jury duty and not be stricken. But if you're in earshot of my voice, or you're watching this as it's reproduced, I want you to give me a pledge, and I want to make sure that you people give me your pledge right here as we stand. Take your spirit into the courtroom. If you ever have your neighbor come before you in a case, I don't care if he's caught red-handed with 35 tons of marijuana, pledge to me, you will acquit, you will not convict. Right. Nullify that law, it is your right. I will never convict my brother or sister or neighbor and have them locked to a cage. It's detrimental to our employment because a lot of people who have possession charges, and God forbid possession with intent to deliver in the state of Pennsylvania, suffer. You cannot get federal employment, other forms of employment. You won't get education subsidies, okay? It also forces the drug activity underground, where a lot of people, if you stand on any corner right here in the city of York, let me tell you something, unemployment rate is 0. There is 100% employment in the underground drug economy. Now, why in the world would you not want to flip those tables, overturn that injustice, overturn that pedestal, and bring that into the legitimate economy? There's only one reason. It is that those that profit from it, as it is currently structured, want to maintain that profit. They want to control the cash flow. When the banks get caught for embezzling funds and money laundering, they get what? A slap on the wrist. You guys seen it? There's a Wells Fargo sign right there. Multiple billions of dollars, money laundering. Nothing happens to them. They want to maintain that privilege. This is why we need to continue to support and bring awareness to bills like SB 528. Talk about the societal impacts that these laws are having, primarily in these urban settings, where again, I only focus on it so much because I call myself a hyper-local activist. I see the damages here in my own city, in my own neighborhood, when I leave my house. If I'm typecast as somebody who they think may have any association with anyone who's ingesting, using, or proliferating the use of marijuana, they'll throw the full weight of the state and its law enforcement apparatus upon me. And that's what we want to overturn. So I want all of you to carry forth that pledge that you will not convict. Say it with me. Do not convict. Do not convict.
We have someone special. This person here is one of my favorite people. She's with Lancaster Normal. She's the former mayor of Mountville. If you don't know where Mountville is, just go straight that way and over across the river into Hempfield Township, and that's where it is. So everybody, give a warm welcome to Miss Connie Guy.
Hey, thank you, Les. Hello, York. This is just the first of many, let me tell you. Yes, I was mayor over in Mountville. It used to be called Pleasantville many hundred years ago, 200. And it was called Pleasantville, I'm sure, because while they were farming and growing hemp there in Hemp Field, in Hemp Land, they were happy.
Yeah!
They were happy because they were making money and they were making something that was really useful. How many of you know what NORML stands for? Well, a few of you. Those of you that don't, that's one of the reasons why we're here, to make you aware. Awareness is key to changing laws. When I got elected over in Mountville, I was elected by 15 votes. So I have to tell you, good people, if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. The only way that we can change laws is with your help and your votes. Now, in a more perfect world, we'd have Washington, D.C. would just be full of all people across the parties that were working together. But as we all know, that's not a more perfect world. And it's a sad world that we're in a two-party system. It's just sad. But in order to get people that are like-minded, and eventually down the road, some of our libertarians and, others elected to offices, it takes people like you that are interested and care enough to change the way things are. Never underestimate the power of large groups of people in large numbers, because indeed it's the only thing that ever has changed anything.
My name is Ryan. I'm from York County, so I'm normal from around here. I have plenty of friends and family that have been arrested and been convicted of marijuana charges. I have used it for since I can remember. Family's been doing it. I've been doing it. I'm just glad that all these people are out here supporting it as well as I am. And I hope that it actually does make a difference, and I hope that you all will not stop supporting it.
Anybody else? All right, here you go.
Thank you. My name is Chris Reitman. I'm from Mount Holly Springs, about 45 minutes back that way. I'm an activist. How many people here are activists? That's good. That's good. If you consider yourself one, that's all you got to do, because there's no license to be an activist. What it means is you're willing to stand up and try to make a difference. I don't smoke pot. I won't say I've never smoked pot. I won't say I've never smoked a whole lot of pot. But I don't do it anymore. Right now I'm more involved in constitutional issues like the Second Amendment. I believe that there's a natural right of self-defense, just as I believe that there is a natural right to self-ownership. Yes. Who owns your body?
I do.
Me. The government doesn't own your body?
Hell no.
Then how can they tell you what you can put in your body?
My name is Bill Cooke. I'm a former prosecutor in Baltimore City. I'm a member of an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. We're on the web at leap.cc. We are against drug war. We believe in legalizing and regulating drugs, ending prohibition. We think it's been a disastrous policy. It infringes on personal liberty. It has basically had a lot of collateral consequences that have been extremely negative. Look at the drug war. it was certainly racist in its origins. One can look at the history of cannabis laws, of cocaine laws, other drug laws, very racist in their origin. It's been racist in how it's been carried out. And, so it's a racist policy through and through. And I think if we end the drug war, we'll see a lot of improvement in race relations and racial disparities in the criminal justice system. It may not fix everything, but I think it will make a lot of progress and heading in the right direction.
Hey, how you doing? This is Les Stark, author of Hempstone Heritage from Pennsylvania Hempland Security. I'm really excited today. I'm with my good friend Manuel Gomez, and we're here at Continental Square in downtown York, where just a couple weeks ago we had the York Hemp Freedom Rally. It's part of the Hemp Freedom Tour that started out in Lancaster, then we moved to York, and our next rally is coming up on August 24th in downtown Reading. It's called the Reading Hemp Freedom Rally. So we're looking to duplicate our success. We had a really successful rally here, and we had a lot of good positive press coverage. We're hoping to duplicate that success in Reading. So what do you say we take a trip over to Reading? How you doing? This is Les Stark, and we're here in downtown Reading at 5th and Penn in front of the old Farmers National Bank. And this is going to be the third stop on the Hemp Freedom Tour. I showed you where we had our last rally in York, and we also had a rally in Lancaster. But now we're bringing the message straight to Reading and the people of Berks County. It's an important message, and it's a message that needs to be heard.
Criminalized.
Right on. We think that's wrong.
Misappropriated, and everything else.
Right on. So we think you should have the option, individuals should have the option to use it recreationally, medicinally, whatever you like it. There you go.
Hey.
Good to hear it.
Listen, you guys keep pushing. But I was here when marijuana was legal. I was here when cocaine was legal.
Oh, man.
So I've been around for a while.
Right on.
It's all about money. No money, no honey in America.
Definitely stop a lot of crime.
And what it is,
I think so.
You bring it out from the black market. Movement's taking on, man. So
I'm with it.
All right?
All right.
That's what it is.
All right.
Tell everybody change is coming to Pennsylvania.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Yeah!
There you go.
We were trying to legalize it here because it's legal in Colorado and Washington to get legal for medical.
Behind the times. We're behind the times. We are behind.
Yeah, we are.
Everyone's behind. Everyone wants it. What's the problem?
That's right. Hey,
Let people drink liquor and crash up all the time, but
that's right on.
I can't smoke my weed. Are you kidding me?
And nobody should ever go to jail for a plant.
I went to jail for 3.5 to 7 years for growing marijuana.
Are you from Reading?
Did you have?
I was here. I've been here for 5 years, but I'm from Boyertown.
What'd she say?
Step away from the podcast.
Oh,
That's just what I know. But yeah, I did time, a lot of time for it. 3.5 to 7 years.
how many plants did you have?
Oh, well, I had 120.
But still, that's a lot of time for a plant.
Yeah, well, they tried to make an example out of me.
Yeah, right. The Libertarians have always supported legalization, and so has the Green Party. They've always supported legalization too. But John Hanger is the first candidate from a major party that has come out strongly in favor of marijuana legalization. He basically has a three-step program that will, first step is to decriminalize and legalize medical cannabis. That'll be step one. After that, he will immediately try to seek decriminalization of personal use and consumption of small amounts of marijuana that's used responsibly by adults. And then, after a 2-year evaluation with our experimentation with decriminalization, if the results are favorable and compared with what's going on in Washington and Colorado and see the results of their experiment with legalization, then he's going to suggest that we, Pennsylvania, go into a system of fully legalized and regulated marijuana market here too. And his goal is to reach full legalization by 2017. So we're really excited to have John Hanger come and speak to us. We realize not everybody's a Democrat, and I'm sure there's libertarians, Green parties too. But it's really important that we have a major candidate
pushing this issue in Pennsylvania for the first time in our lifetimes. At least amongst the general population, there's broad-based support all throughout the political spectrum of people on the left, people on the right, and the middle. All political parties, whether they consider themselves conservative or liberal or middle of the road. We find that it's basically a common sense issue, that when the facts are laid out before people, we believe that they will support change. Yeah, a lot of times when we have these rallies, like when we had our rally in Lancaster and York, a lot of times people have questions. They say, well, how's this rally going to be? I mean, do I have to worry about the police? Am I going to come to this rally and get arrested? And well, actually, what I want to tell everybody is that you have absolutely nothing to worry about. We have no fear of getting arrested or anything like that, because we have a policy that we're not going to be smoking marijuana at the rally. Our rally is not for the purpose of civil disobedience, even though I do believe that civil disobedience, when used wisely, and can be an effective tactic, and I fully and wholeheartedly endorse that tactic when it's used by, like, my friends from the Panic Hour down at the Philadelphia for the Smoke Down Prohibition rallies, and in other events they're perfectly fine and acceptable. But at our rally, that's not the tactic that we're going to employ in Reading, because we feel like we have a really strong and powerful message, and we want that message to be heard. And our message is a lot greater than just, watch me smoke this blunt. That's not a problem. And as a leader of the rally, I look at it and as a former Marine, I look at it as like taking Marines into battle. I don't want to lose a single person. I don't want any of you to get arrested. So for our own safety and for our own benefit, and for the benefit of the city, and for the benefit of getting our message out there, we ask that you please respect that. And if you really feel that strongly about it, that you must smoke marijuana and you must get high, do it before the rally or do it after the rally. But let's not tempt fate, and let's leave at the rally. Let's just concentrate on the content of our political speech, and let's get that message out there in a powerful and effective way. And so don't worry about anything going wrong, and we think it's going to be a positive message. We're going to lay this before the bar of public opinion. We're bringing this message straight to the people of Reading and Berks County and our greater region in Pennsylvania, and we will make change. It's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to each one of us what we do. Each individual has this tremendous power inside of them, and it's just, you have to tap into that, and that's what we're doing, especially when we band together. That's when our power is the greatest. So we need to come down and make a powerful, strong showing. I hope you come down and support the Reading Hemp Freedom Rally on Saturday, August 24th in downtown Reading.